ask Bill.
Should we ask Bill?
Know? Yeah.
Bill, you're
Yes.
a high school teacher.
Yes. Do you know?
Come on in
Can
here.
you answer as a friend?
Bill Allen, y'all.
Behind
Hello,
the scenes.
everybody.
Behind the scenes, Bill.
Behind the scenes,
We're
Bill.
only letting him in here because he's got a rock and roll T-shirt on.
Yeah. Bill's a high school teacher, so tell us your perspective.
Yeah.
Wait, but I
so-
want to hear both, teacher and parent.
Okay,
So
so
you're both.
and I'm both in district.
Oh,
So
okay.
I live in the district that I teach in.
Oh, you do.
My oldest son's
Oh.
going to be a high school student at the high school where I teach.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So
So you're in
This
the
is a
middle of
good
the war.
perspective.
There are complexities.
Yes.
So I'm on, social media, Facebook groups and stuff where it's like the parents of blah, blah, blah. So as a parent, I'm seeing many other people supporting teachers, but also people tearing into the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Like teachers are lazy. They just want an extra vacation.
Oh,
Like-
vacation.
Who would actually?
The e-learning's
who
not a
truly-
vacation.
But who
And these are not
truly believes
random
this?
people. These are people who there are other parents who I know from scouts and from school programs and sports who are legit
People
going hard on
Do you
teachers.
really believe?
Hard on teachers.
I need to know
for,
who these
for
people are.
asking to not go back.
Yes. Because, so there are different camps, right? There are people who think
Damn these camps.
we need
Can we get rid of all the camps?
Stop camping.
it's
No more
it's like-
camping.
Camping
We don't do
sucks.
that anyway.
it's like a war. And there are people who just are hardcore, the kids should be back in school for hybrid. My kid needs social,
Oh,
interaction.
so that is an argument. My
Right.
kid needs the Well,
We
gonna,
all feel
as
that
a former
way.
homeschooler, I'm gonna bullshit on the social thing because the whole world is social, and just be creative. School
Right.
is not the dumping ground for your child to become socialized. It's not.
Yeah.
Sorry, the end.
Yes.
Okay.
Cheers.
Boom.
But
Yeah.
I think as a teacher, there's no win here.
You're not
Hybrid-
winning today.
hybrid-
You're more what the fucking than winning.
Hybrid would have been double the work. They're like, no.
Explain how.
Okay,
Because
so
people don't get this.
In a hybrid
Yeah.
model where you have some kids coming today staggered, across the week so that they're not too close and your room's all spaced out and there's safety and masks. In that model, you're preparing lessons for those kids who will be there in person. Then, for the other times when they're not, on their off days, you still have to provide learning, and it's got to be live. You can't just upload a video and be like,
Right.
watch
It's
this
live
and
lessons now.
Right.
Right.
So, and that's, so a student by law has to be in class 5 hours a day.
2.5 hours direct
Right.
online learning,
Right.
correct? Right.
So the hybrid models would have been, yeah, sure, it's cool to have the kids some of the time rather than none of the time, but it would be double the work. Anybody who has that misconception that it's not clearly hasn't been in class, last spring during quarantine.
Or
So-
hasn't been a teacher.
So
ever.
you're
Yes.
not just recording the lessons that you do on your in-person days and then putting them on the Zoom.
Right.
You're doing both live.
Yes. And you could say, well, okay, I could just upload, I could record and upload my lecture or my, lesson, and then those kids can watch that. But that doesn't always translate because some of the content or curriculum that you're going through doesn't necessarily translate just by rewatching a video that you recorded previously. And as you know, kids have questions.
Of
Right?
course.
So imagine a college lecture. In college, you have lecture and then you have your lab. The professor doing the lecture is not the same person in the lab. That's usually like a TA, right?
Yeah.
Well, we don't have that luxury. So we have to give the lectures, we have to do the demos, we have to teach the lesson, and then we have to be available online basically all the
because
time.
if I need extra
It is
help
all
and I
of,
go to
Yes.
it
office
is all
hours.
of the time because then there are moms that are technologically dumb like me where I'm like, it took me a month to even figure out how to get into Hazel's seesaw thing in the spring.
yeah.
I don't know how to do that.
And it's confusing for the kids, it's confusing for the parents. When I look at last spring, quarantine sucked.
Oh, it
It
was a
sucked for
nightmare.
everybody. It sucked
Absolutely.
for parents, it sucked for the teachers.
Yep.
We got
Yep.
thrown into it. We did our best. And you know what? Here's the thing. I'm a teacher, and I'm going to tell you and everybody else that complains about the teachers being lazy, yeah, there are some crappy teachers, just like there are crappy
But they
cops,
were
just
crappy
like there are
teachers
crappy
before quarantine.
bus drivers. Yeah.
You don't become crappy
Right.
because of quarantine. You
But-
already were.
You know,
Right, you
but
already
I
were.
would
Now
say
your crappy is showing.
Right.
yeah, and that's it. The majority of people that are teachers are busting their ass to try to make this stuff viable. And it is way harder to do that with e-learning.
Because this
For
is an
sure.
unfamiliar territory for a ton of teachers.
Yeah.
Like, this is a whole brand new thing. Going online, teaching to a screen,
And it
so
doesn't always
holding
translate.
these kids accountable
Right.
for logging in.
doesn't-
It doesn't
Yeah.
always translate. So, like, if you
No.
have a class like mine where I teach video, I teach media, and it's so focused on the equipment, on using the
right.
equipment,
So
on
you're, like,
microphones.
So there's
zooming
no
in
hands-on.
too.
There's
There-
no hands-on.
I have to translate
Yeah.
everything that I teach, which is a very intensive curriculum. I jam like 3 semesters of college-level filmmaking and video into 1 semester for high school kids in a normal in-person semester.
Yeah.
I have to translate all of that and simplify it and make it more basic so they could still do stuff, but like from at home. Then there's the equity issue, because you guys talked about like kids who maybe have like a single working mom and nobody to watch them, nobody, and safe spaces. There,
know.
it's hard because I'm in a position now for the first time where my wife's working full time. I'm going to be working full time. I have a high school freshman and a 5th grader, and they're not on the same schedules.
No.
No.
So as a teacher and a parent, it's like double the work. No matter
Yeah.
what, it's double the work.
Yeah.
And I know, the thing that I'd say to like everybody who feels bummed out is this sucks for everyone.
It really
It
does.
sucks for everyone.
It does.
But
Yeah.
as an adult, I have to pretend that it doesn't suck, and I have to somehow try to spin it in a positive fashion. And I feel like that, I don't know if that's straight up deceptive, but like,
Deceptive is fine. It's fine.
right, it has to be fine. Because if
Everything's
we
Yeah.
as parents just shit all over the situation,
You can't do that.
the
No.
kids are going to absorb that
Yep.
negativity.
We don't want them absorbing extra shit.
No.
and
They already bring
they're
shit.
gonna they're
No,
gonna
it's
go
already
into e-learning.
stressful for them in the first place.
Right.
Like this is very stressful for them. I can only speak for my kids, but I like to believe that my kids are the only kids that thrive off of structure, and
It's never been more okay to hyper focus only on your own kids, which in a little like that, the simplicity of that is somewhat comfortable because it's like this hyper single focused job, right? Like you have one job. Oh,
Yep.
thank God. I don't
Yeah.
have 12. Great.
Well, like the last semester where it was just the quarantine and the kids were told and they were very aware that their grades were not going to be affected by by their work doing the remote learning. And part of that was kind of negative because you know what that did to my high schoolers? I don't give a shit then.
Yep.
Oh.
They're like, I'm not going to log it. What difference does it make? Why do I'm like Chase, you haven't logged into science in a week. I'm getting all the emails, and he's like, who cares?
Yeah.
What difference does it make? My grade is not going to change. I'm getting a B. What are you even on my ass about?
So mine were split. My 15-year-old was like all about it because she's like, I'm straight A, straight A, straight A. I'm going to maintain straight A. The 13-year-old was like,
yeah,
not one shit given.
Yeah.
yeah.
It sucks. It sucks for the kids at all ages. My youngest is going to be in 5th grade, and he's like yours where without that school structure, like this kid is just a
not
wreck.
doing it right.
Yeah. And I mean social, emotionally, academically,
Yes.
just will not
All
do
around.
the work.
Right.
Tantrums all day long, just, anger.
You got to
young
pull
boy.
up that Mary Poppins energy.
Right. Well, and that's the thing.
Get your asses in the car.
I feel for the single moms
Yeah.
who have to work full time and they're like, what am I going to do
Well,
with my
they
kid?
just have to leave my neighbor. She just has to leave her kids home and trust them to log into their bullshit.
And if they're really young, what do you do? And
Yeah.
all these teachers, by the way, that I work with, there are a lot of young teachers that I work with
Yeah.
who them and their spouse both work full time. Their kids usually go to, if they're really young, they go to a daycare all day,
Right.
Well,
or
okay,
they
that's
go to
the weird
school
thing
and then
is
they're
that
at
people
base
can still
afterwards.
send their kids to daycare, though.
Some can, some can't. So there's a lot of problems with people struggling to get somebody to stay home with their kids during e-learning. And I get that. It sucks. It's a burden for the teachers and the parents and everybody.
It's like education just doubled, right? Because the teachers have this crazy, weird, new, ambiguous workload that is shared by parents by having to be present or make their kids be accountable. And then if you have a child with special needs,
Oh, then forget it.
So I don't know
Yeah.
about it with you guys, but in our school district, anybody that has special ed services, they're providing plans.
Yeah, they are.
And in some cases, with families who out of an equity situation where maybe they don't have internet, they don't have computers at home.
that's the other thing. There are so many kids
Right.
that don't even have internet. How can you e-learn?
Our school district
pull
is
some
11.
weeds.
Yeah, it's like 11 different suburbs, and it's the whole socioeconomic spectrum, right? There are really poor kids, there are really rich kids, and everything in between. And one of the things that they've talked about is having safe spaces where those kids who there's no way for their family to equitably provide them with what they need for e-learning.
Yeah.
Either the school gets them that laptop or
Right.
gets them whatever, or there will be space. Because think about it, there's no gym classes.
Where?
So gyms,
Like what
field
kind of
houses.
space?
Like,
That's what he's
imagine
saying,
you go
like-
to a gym or a field house
Yeah.
or the theater, and you're 10 feet away from the next kid,
Mm-hmm.
and there are adults who supervise, and you have your mask, but you have
Oh.
a school computer there.
Oh.
And you have,
You go there and
bathroom
do your
breaks.
work. Yep.
Or
Okay,
the kids that are
that's
on lunch
clever.
waivers, right? Who they,
Yeah.
financially
What about
they
the hungry kids?
right. So they're going to accommodate
That's what I'm
those
saying,
kids.
yeah.
And I think if I think a lot of people in a lot of different school districts have different levels of struggles, right? You guys are in a huge school district.
Yeah.
Ours is we have 4,000 kids between two campuses. So with all that empty space without attending school, they're gonna have to make room in the schools to accommodate those kids out of need.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
No child left behind.
Well,
Well,
that's
right.
the
That's-
ultimate,
Right,
right?
right.
Thank God it
I
finally
mean-
makes sense. Thank you, NCLB, because you sucked in the 90s.
Yes, and the idea being like, if we want to prevent kids from falling behind academically, social and emotionally, we're going to have to make accommodations for those families that need, with the emphasis on need help.
With all of these extra accommodations comes the extra workload for the teachers and staff.
Yeah.
They have to get creative. They have to think outside the box. They have to do
Well,
all
they
of these
do,
special
but that
different
part,
things.
I do, as a former teacher, feel I can legitimately say that I do like that challenge, because I think at the origin of every teacher's heart is that very sort of thing. You don't go into teaching to say, I'm going to make sure that every one of my students leaves here at the top of the language arts level. You
No.
go into teaching because you have a heart that wants to pull people up from the cracks and help them and make a level playing ground and make everybody their best.
Yeah.
So while it sucks on a management level, from a creative level and teacher heart level, I think it's kind of cool to be in a position where you can say, you know what, I get to go and spend 2 hours in the building with 20% of this population that truly will benefit from what I'm offering.
Right.
Because as a lot of times as a teacher, you put your heart into something and it's just shit on. Nobody
Oh.
benefits, or you're doing something that's mandated and lame and
Right.
nobody does, but
Right.
this is true, like, oh my God, you get to be in the trenches and have a measurable impact now.
Yeah.
So that part I think is cool.
And,
Yeah.
and you know what? All the people who are worried about these kids falling behind,
Oh, that's nonsense.
academically or socially,
That's stupid.
I think of it in a sort of a different way. I think that these kids who have gone through this, no matter what age they are, this is going to impact them for the rest of their lives,
For
but
sure.
maybe not in a negative way. Maybe in a
doesn't
way
have to
where
be
they learn to
negative.
become survivors and
Absolutely.
adapters, and they learn how to
Flexible.
be flexible
Yeah.
because
And
they
I-
had to, right?
And
when
our
you think
kids
of like,
today kind of need that because
Yeah.
they
It's
A lot of them are rigid. Yeah.
and the reality is you can't fall behind when everybody is in this shitstorm.
I agree.
You know what I mean? Like
Right,
they're
it's not just
all,
you.
no matter what age, every kid that's going through this right now
Mm-hmm.
is in this same crappy position that nobody likes, but they're going to come out. We're going to make it through this.
Yep.
And when they do, they'll have learned a
Are you
valuable
about
lesson.
to go High School Musical on me?
Yeah. I'm going to bust out the tunes. But they'll have learned a really valuable lesson.
I agree.